Okay, hello everyone. My name is Akash Joshi, and today the webinar topic is on displaying survey responses on a map using React. So I'm actually really excited to be here because this is the first time that I have learned the topic, and then I'm getting to explain it to other people in such a short duration. So Varsha has already given an introduction about me, but I'll just tell you in brief what I do. So I'm a full stack engineer by profession, and I use Node, React, and Python in production. So if you have any doubts regarding these three technologies during this lecture, you can reach out to me through chat. I am also a tech writer. I have written for a few publications, which I have given here. Mostly I write on web development stuff. So I've written a lot about React, and I've also written some things about JS and data science. And I also like to contribute to open source libraries because it's interesting to know what people are building out there. So we'll get started with today's webinar topic. So it's on displaying survey responses on a map, as we had just said. So I'll just move the Zoom menu here. And okay, so I'll show you what we are building first. So this is what our final product would look like. It will be a map which will show the user's current location. When we click on yes answers, we get some data points which are related to the yes answer in a survey. And when we click on no answers, we get some data points which are mapped to the no answers in the survey. So basically, let's consider that it's a really simple survey which just has yes and no answers. So it can be something like, uh, are you interested in this workshop, or is home delivery available in your area, are shops operational in your area, something like that. So we can quickly jot those data points on a map and then get a visual representation of how that data is looking on a map. So I'll continue forward. So yeah, the webinar timing may look long. So it's 1 hour, 30 minutes, but most of this time is probably going to go in answering your questions. So does everyone have access to their chat option there on Zoom? So if everyone could type out some sort of answer right now. So, during the lecture, if you have any doubts, please ask it there, because this lecture is for you, and it would be meaningless if I explain this stuff and then you don't get any of it at any point. Okay, so thanks. I am seeing your chat bubbles there. Very good. So let's move on to the next slide. So I'm using slides as a way to communicate what the current topic we are discussing here is. Most of it is going to be in code, which I'm going to type out here in a code sandbox, or here in an empty Visual Studio Code window that I've opened. So the prerequisites for this topic are HTML and CSS. So HTML and CSS, as in you just need to know the basics of HTML and CSS to know how to structure your web app and how to apply styles to it. And you also need JavaScript. So JavaScript is of course fundamental when learning any web development framework. If you know the fundamentals of JavaScript well, along with the latest standards like ES6 or ES 2020, then you can pick up any new framework easily. And lastly, it is helpful for this session if you know the very basics of React. So like, you know how to create a basic HTML form or something really basic. Most of it is going to be covered by me in this lecture. So firstly, let's get started with React. So does everyone have access to a web browser, or does everyone have a coding window open where they can practice along with me? It's okay if you don't have it right now. I will also be sharing the code with you, so you can practice it later and go through it and learn more. So basically, these two are the ways to get started with React most quickly. So you can either go on Code Sandbox. So this is literally the home screen of Code Sandbox. I click on Code Sandbox and I go here. And the first thing I see is create a React sandbox. So this is the fastest way to get started with React. And the second way to run React locally, you can run this command. So how many is, has anyone of you not heard of NPM before? So if I have any no's in the chat, then I can explain to you what NPM is. So, okay, I'll give a brief introduction. So NPM is basically the node package manager, which is used by JS developers to upload bundles and packages or pieces of code which are reusable by other developers. So if we see this piece of code here, it says npx create react app name. So what this does, what npx does is it runs whatever npm library you have mentioned here in your terminal directly. And the characteristic of create react app is that whenever you pass a folder name after it or an app name, then it creates a folder of that name in your directory. So if you run this command in your terminal right now, it would create a folder named app name and it would create a React application inside that folder. So right now I will go with Code Sandbox since it would be easier to explain it to you right now. So it would be easier to see the code and also see what we are developing at the same time. So I hope that this is visible to you. If some text, some piece of text or something is invisible or like not readable right now, please let me know. I can adjust the sizes according to that. Okay. So this is supposed to, yes, okay. So this is our default React application that we have built in Code Sandbox. So this is a React example starter project. So this is just the basics of React. They haven't done anything here. They've just set up the basics of React. So we can go ahead from here and code our application. So firstly, I'll explain what React is. So React is basically a declarative UI. So what it is a declarative framework. So what declarative frameworks mean is that we tell React how our UI should look at any point. And based on that, React automatically takes the steps to build our UI. So we don't have to write a lot of JavaScript code. React automatically handles where everything should be placed, how everything should look. So the best way to explain it is using this line, React of state equals to UI. So this is a left to right notation, function notation. What this means is that React is like a function. Into React, we pass our state at any point, and the output that we are getting is our UI. So what is state? I will describe state as, so in the simplest terms, state is what is written here right now. So we have told React that I want a div component here, I want a h1 here, I want a h2 here. Please display this for me. So what it is doing is that we are passing this as an input to a React component. So here, Code Sandbox has very helpfully created a default app component for us. And throughout this lecture, we'll just be using this component. We don't need to know anything else about React, anything more complex about React right now. We just need to know that we are entering HTML here, and we are getting our display here. So I'll change this and we can see it changing right here. So we aren't writing anything. I mean, we aren't writing any custom JavaScript. We aren't updating the DOM by ourselves. React is doing that for us automatically. So I'll write something here and you can see that. So I had mentioned in the prerequisites that you guys also need to know some CSS and HTML. That is because, as we are seeing here, the basics of React is that it takes HTML as an input. So we have passed. So what we have written here is like pure HTML. We use any HTML tag here and it works directly. So we are getting some errors while we are typing out the code because Code Sandbox is trying to live reload our page while we are typing it out. And so this is a span right now. If I create it, convert it into a bold tag, then we see that we get a bold tag here. So right now what I'm going to do is, so since we have to build a good looking application which has a map which is covered from end to end, but we know, so some of you may know that by default the browser adds some padding to the body. So to test this out, I'm going to create a full width element, full width div here, and I'm going to see how long or like what margin the body of the HTML is applying. So here I will pass an ID as my div right now, and we can see that React is importing styles.css, which is written as /styles.css. So the / notation means that the CSS file is present in the same folder as the app.js folder here. So we go into styles.css. So you can see that this is basic CSS. The default style that they have already applied for is a app class name, and they've changed the font family and the text alignment. And here we can see they've applied the class name here. So we don't really have use for this right now. So I'm going to remove this from here and save this so we can see that everything moved to the left. And here right now, since we created a div with a ID, my div, I'm going to copy it over here. And then I will give it a height of about 50 pixels. I will give it a width of 100 VW. So you might not know what VW and VH are. So VW is the VW is the width of the container. So 100 VW means that we are telling our component to take the full width of the container, which it is present in. So since our container is of this size, the component should fill the whole container. And now I'm going to add a background color here of the color black. And yes, so I just created this div right now, and using my CSS, we can see that a full width container has appeared here. So is viewport width, isn't it? Yes, it's viewport width. That's correct. Okay. So we can see that the body is applying some margin here. If you inspect element over there by right clicking and clicking on inspect element, and you go to the body, you see that the HTML by default is applying a margin of 8 pixel there. So what we need to do is that we need to counter that. So, or we need to reduce that margin. So our elements can appear full width. So what I'll do here right now is I'll just add margin 0 pixel here. So we can see now that our container is taking the full width without a scroll. So is it clear up to this part for everyone? If anyone has any doubt about the very basics of React, they can ask me at this point. Okay, so these were just the basics of React. So for the next part, we are going to get started with introducing maps into our application. So it might appear confusing that we just made a div element and then we're moving to maps. How is that possible? But we have some helpful libraries given to us by open source developers who have already done most of the work for us. We will just be adding those libraries in our code and we'll be using them directly. So in Code Sandbox, we can add dependencies on this side here. We can see that the developers have helpfully added React, React DOM, and React scripts for us. So right now I'm going to add two dependencies. So firstly, I'll show it to you how to add it here, and then I'm going to write a console command for it. So firstly, we need Leaflet, which is the default library for creating mobile friendly interactive maps. So that will be downloaded in the background, and I'll also add React Leaflet. So React Leaflet is for using leaflet maps in your React application. So we have added both of those libraries. I think they got downloaded there. And at the same time, the command for adding them locally would be something like npm add leaflet React Leaflet. So basically what this command does is that it installs these two libraries locally and also adds them to your package.json. So package.json is what node uses to maintain the dependencies of your application. We saw that we had added React Leaflet and Leaflet here, and we see that it is automatically getting updated here with their appropriate latest versions. So right now we will move on with adding our map, with actually adding our map. So for that, what we'll do is I'll move you through the steps of what a newbie would do, to what a newbie should do to actually getting started with applying or implementing a new library they found online. So right now we have this React Leaflet. So I'm going to go into its documentation and I'm going to see how I can get started with implementing this into my application. So firstly, I go to its root, reactleaflet.js.org. I click on getting started. It tells us some core concepts like how it implements itself into the application. And it tells us about some lifecycle processes, etc. These are more in-depth stuff. This is more in-depth stuff about how it implements itself, but we can directly move into setting it up. So firstly, they tell us to read the quick start guide of Leaflet itself. So we really do need Leaflet's documentation here too, because React Leaflet is an abstraction on Leaflet. So we need to coordinate both of those documentations. So it says that we also need to add its CSS to our page. So the thing is that if we don't add React Leaflet's CSS to our page, then we will end up with a broken map, which is all over our page. So helpfully, they have linked their CSS file over here. What we need to do is copy this from here, and then in the public folder in your React application, you will find index.html, which has all the default imports of your application. So by default, they aren't really importing anything, but they've just defined our viewport width, which is according to the device width and initial scale one, etc. You might know this when you worked with responsive web design. So I won't really describe it here. What we need to do is add Leaflet's CSS over here. So I've just pasted it in here and I've saved it. So that should be the basic to getting started with Leaflet, but we haven't actually implemented or imported any of the Leaflet code right now. So import it, and then we need a map instance. So the top level instance of a React Leaflet component is a map inside which everything is present. That's fine. So here they've just given us some instructions on how we install the library, how we go through it, etc. But what's important for us here is examples. So we move into examples. There are a bunch of examples here, a simple marker with pop-up, event handling, etc., etc. And over here, since a simple marker with pop-up is the first example that's visible to us, so being a developer, we would obviously choose the first option that we see or the easiest option that we see. So we click on this, and they have defined a bunch of, so this is basically like some boilerplate code that they have defined for us to use. So for now, I won't go into detail and explain what all of this does. So is this visible to everyone? If anything is not visible to you, if anything is unclear, please let me know, because it's very important for, so it's important for the speaker that the audiences understand what they're trying to say. So I'll copy this code here, but so these are basically React components. So React Leaflet has designed some React components for us, which we are firstly importing it or into our application, and then we're defining them in our React JSX code to use them in our application. So for now, I'll copy this from here. I will replace what I've already written and I'll paste my code here. So already we are getting a lot of errors since we have not imported anything till now. So next what I'll do is I'll copy this import statement here. But what I'll change in this import statement is that in the example, they're getting the source from a folder in their app itself. But since we don't have a folder called SRC where we are storing React Leaflet's code, but we have imported the library, what we are going to use is React. We are going to import these components from React Leaflet. So our code would look like import map tile layer marker popup from React Leaflet. Now, we can see some other errors here. So position is not defined. So position, we find position over here. So what they've done is position is an array which contains two elements, the latitude, the current latitude, and the current longitude, which we want to display on the map. So I'll copy this from here. We are returning our HTML over here. So I will define this before my return statement, and we are using function components. However, this boilerplate is using class components. So the main difference in function components and class components is that class components use this a lot because they store their state as variables in their code and they point to them using this. So we don't really need this over here. I'll remove this from here and here. So the next error we'll get is that our state is not defined. So what I will do is now I'll pick state from here and paste it here. And of course, we need to either use a const or let here. I will use const to define state as a constant right now. And we have imported this. So cannot read property zoom of undefined. We also need to remove this from here. And right now, this is probably what a lot of you would see after implementing React Leaflet. So the thing is that in React Leaflet, they haven't really defined that you also need to set the height for the map element that you have implemented here. So I will go into my CSS and check, yes. So we have a leaflet container here, but the height is not set to anything. So by default, unfortunately, React Leaflet does not help us with this. They don't set a default height there. So what we need to do is we need to take this class name here and we need to go to our CSS file. We define a CSS for our class name. I'll just close that for now. And in height, for now, let's say that we define 50 viewport height. So right now, my map is taking 50% of the viewport height. So if I go back here, okay, so that was a problem with the map tile itself. Now it is loaded correctly. So the default latitude and longitude that they have given us is of London, but that's not really helpful for us to visualize this. So let's say that we take the latitude and longitude of the center of India. So let's just search that right now, latitude and longitude. Okay, or let's go for latitude and longitude of India. So helpfully Google prints the direct numbers here. I copy this latitude from here, I paste it here. I copy the longitude from here and I replace the longitude value here. So I have saved the code right now. So you must not be seeing this, but to save the code, I'm pressing Command S in the middle so that our page is refreshing correctly. So this is still not really helpful to visualize. So let me just take the coordinates of Delhi. What we need to visualize, so we need to be able to see where we can place our coordinates. If it's in the middle of nowhere, then it's not really helpful for us. So I again click on open a new tab, and yes, we can see this here, but we see that the map is too zoomed out right now. So since we are passing zoom as a property to our map, we can adjust it to adjust the default zoom of the map. So first, so right now would be a good point to explain the code that we had copied from this boilerplate. So basically what this code does is, we had read in the documentation somewhere around here that map is the top level component of our map. So we include map here, and the map takes two properties, center and zoom, as a, so it takes two values as a property, two objects as a property, which is center and zoom. So we have passed the center as a position here using the latitude and longitude, and we are passing the zoom level here from this object. So I'll adjust the zoom level here and we'll see that what is happening. So what is visible to us right now is that the lower the zoom value, the more we are zooming out. So if I take a value of 19, then we are zoomed in to the level of roads. Okay, so since I'm using Command S to save, Chrome decided to save this page. So what, I don't need this right now. And okay, the page is saved. So everyone can take a look at the code up to this point. And if anyone has any doubts, please ask me. So I explained the map component. I'll explain tile layer later because it is one of the most important parts of a map. What I'll explain right now is the marker. So the marker is placed as the same position as the center of the map. So we are passing the position property to the marker as the position from here. And clicking on this, it says a pretty CSS3 pop-up, but we don't need pop-ups right now. So we can remove the pop-up code for now. The marker still remains the same. It's just that, okay, it shouldn't do that. I'll refresh this for now. Or we can test it here. Okay, so we see that clicking the marker actually does nothing if we remove the pop-up from there. Here React seems to have an error reloading the page. So this is one of the basic components which React Leaflet has given us. So these are the things that we have imported from React Leaflet: map, tile layer, and marker, and we are using all three of them here. If we import something which we haven't used, then ESLint would complain to us that the value that we have imported is defined but never used. As we can see here, circle is defined but never used. So circle is something which we will use later on, but for right now, I'm just giving you using this as an example. All three components are already made. We are just passing props, right? Yes, all three components are already made. So this actually smoothly moves us on to the next section. I won't go into details right now, but we have components here. So can we make zoom dynamic? Yes. So by default, the zoom is actually changeable by the user. So what I mean is user controls the zoom level by either scrolling in or scrolling out. So you can't see what motion I'm making with the mouse right now, but when I scroll in, it zooms in right now. So uh, I'll just share the link in the chat so everyone can experiment with the app. And clicking on plus and minus also changes the zoom dynamically. And otherwise, if you want to change it by code, we can of course change it by code, but that's a part of hooks in React, and I'll move into that later. So the last part of a map is its tile layer. So tile layer is basically the actual map in the background that we are seeing. That's a tile layer, and it's actually a large PNG file which has been distributed into individual tiles, and those tiles are displayed to us in a grid format. So everything looks like a single image to us, but actually in the background, according to the tile URL that we are passing, whatever service we are using. So for example, here we are using OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is dynamically loading the tiles as we are scrolling through the map. As we can see, there are gray blocks there because the tiles haven't been loaded. But when we scroll there, the tiles automatically load, and then we get a continuous map surface here. Okay. So that was the, so another thing about tile layers is, so the first thing is that we need to pass a URL. So this URL is the default one that the boilerplate was using. However, you can Google map tile layer, map tiles, I guess. And then you will find a ton of examples, lots of services selling map tiles. So of course, the most popular one would be Google Maps. So Google Maps has a really good tile layer which people use. So the Maps app itself obviously uses Google Maps own tile layers. So these are all the things that we can use. And then there's this service called Mapbox. In Mapbox, basically, it's like a custom map layer designed for you. So it's a software as a service product. So you define how your map would look, how certain things would be colored, whether you want your map in dark mode, in light mode, etc. So you basically define a lot of things in Mapbox, and then you get it as a custom tile layer made for your application. And the second thing is attribution. So most tile layers require attribution because the maps aren't made by a single person, but they are made by a lot of contributors, just like any other application. And so they ask that when you use their tile layer, you also give attribution to them. So is everything up to this part clear to you guys? If you have any doubt, how did we define state here? We have state here, but how is state.lat appearing here? So does anyone have any doubts regarding this? Can you repeat tile layer? Okay. So let me give you an example. What happens if we remove tile layer? So I've commented this code right now. So we can see that the map is actually there, but the tile layer has not loaded. The tile layer was the background image that was being displayed on our map. So this is the actual latitude and longitude on which this point is being placed. But since we have commented out the tile layer, there is no tile right in the background right now. So I'll uncomment this again, and you see that the tile layer is loaded. So that's basically what a map tile is. I think you can go into this in much detail. There's a lot of research behind this too, how to make perfect map tiles. How do two map tiles be similar? So actually, if you replace this URL with any other URL, it would still be the same. There would be no errors in the map tiles. So how is that possible? What are those? How are the people building map tiles to the exact same dimension? That's something you guys can look up later on. So, okay, apart from tile layers, does anyone have any doubts from this part? And what's X, Z, X, Y there? Okay. So these these are actually parameters which are being passed to this URL by your tiler. So what we are seeing here is a highly abstracted view. So whenever we are scrolling everywhere, what map is doing is actually loading the tile layer for that part. So when it goes there, it passes the X and Y, which is latitude and longitude. But I'm not sure if it passes the exact latitude or longitude, or whether it is mapping our latitude and longitude to a XY, what is it called? Cartesian gradient or Cartesian graph. And then, so basically it's mapping it in XY and it's passing it over here. And Z is basically the zoom level. So for each zoom level, there are different maps. We see that when we are zooming out, new tile layers are being loaded in. And that's basically what's happening. And S here is just the subdomain that OpenStreetMap is using according to whichever server has the lowest latency. I think they may be using it for load balancing, so that we don't overload. So all the people loading their maps don't overload the servers. Are there any other doubts? Okay. So, okay, is my voice audible to everyone, by the way? If there are any problems in hearing me, if you want me to speak louder or slower, please let me know. Or if my voice is crackling, then you can let me know that I may have a bad internet connection. Okay, thank you. So right now we have built a basic, we have done getting started with maps. So the next part is drawing circles on the map. So to draw circles on the map, we will be going to React Leaflet's documentation. We can Control F and search for circles. We click on circle over here and we see that, excuse me. Okay. So we see that React Leaflet has given us a circle component and it's taking center and radius as the default property. They have also given the leaflet reference here, which we can use to see if we can pass any other properties to our circle. So right now what I'm going to do is import circle, and here let's say const circle position. So we are going to mimic the position variable here. I'm going to pass circle position here. And since our latitude and longitude is this one, I'll just copy this in here right now and paste this in. But we see that our circle is still not drawn over here. That's because we haven't imported it into our map yet. So the next thing I'm going to do is import circle here. So cannot read property LNG of undefined. That's because we haven't passed the position in yet. So we pass the position in as circle position. So cannot read. Okay. This should be working at this point, but I'll see what error it's giving us. Okay, it's still in a bad state right now. Is it loading here? We'll just let that load in the background. So, okay. So it still says that. So what else are we missing from here? So we have center. Okay. So I was passing position there, but I did the rookie mistake of not looking at the documentation myself. So center is what we want to pass, not position. So I write center over here. I save this. And Yeah. So we just drew a circle at the exact same position where we are. So what I'll do for now is I'll increase its radius. So I'm not sure of the exact radius. So how we are mapping radius to the map right now. But if I pass 50 here, then we see that a larger circle is being built on the map. I'll reduce the zoom level for now so we can see our circle and our general map better. Okay, cool. So the next thing what we can do is we can move the circle a bit away from the user's position maybe. So you see that I changed this from 0.70 to 0.71 and our circle jumped somewhere else. So this is because latitude and longitude are actually pretty sensitive, and even for smaller values, the change that we see on our page can be pretty large. So for now, I'll just keep this 7041 here. Maybe I'll increase the value of this. And where did it go? Let me check over here. Okay, so it was drawn way above us. So let's, where's the user right now? Okay, and we will go maybe 061. So yeah, so I think this is much better than before. So we see that we drew a circle by importing the component and looking it up in the documentation. So the next part is drawing circles on the map using React. So for this part, does anyone have any doubt? Okay. So everything is clear up to this point, how we drew the circle on the map. So, okay, cool. So the next thing what we are going to do is how to draw circles on the map using React. So basically for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the map function of arrays, and I'm going to use an array of arrays and draw some circles on the map. So does has everyone used the dot map operator on an array before? Has anyone used it before? So for now, let's just say that I have circle position 1 here, and I go const circle position 2, and okay, waiting for the map to load. Since we have position 1 as undefined, it is for creating random values, I guess. No, actually map is for iterating over our arrays. So after I define a second circle here, I just need to define its position. Okay, so for this, I guess I can just pick this value right now and just position a circle on a different point. And okay, so right now I have two values for where a circle can be positioned. So I create an array. So that array would be named circles. And inside circles, I would have some objects which have the key, let's say center, where I pass this array. So right now our React application will bug out because I'm going to write a lot of code. So please ignore this part of the screen till then. And the center for the second circle would be this one that we defined here. So basically in React, we can directly use JavaScript functions inside our code right here. And according to those JS functions, we can define how our state, how our UI will look. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use map over circles, our circles array here. So we can directly peek at the documentation over here. Okay, so yeah. So what map does is it defines callback function on each element and returns array. So basically what we will be doing is we'll be iterating over each element in this array, and while iterating over each element, we'll be creating a new array in which will have which will have individual elements based on what we need. So the map function takes a callback function as a parameter, which has the individual element and the index of the element as parameters. So the map function has a parameter, which is a callback function, which has two parameters: the individual element itself, which is our circle here, and the index of the element. So while iterating over circles, firstly, it will give the circle as this object. It will give the index to us as 0, and then it will iterate over this object, and it will give the index of the object as 1. So what we will be defining here is we'll take this circle from here. We paste this right here. So I'll format the code so this is much more visible. So you can look carefully over here. We have the circles array. We are mapping over the array. At each point, we are getting the individual circle and the index from the array. And then we are returning the circle property, which we have imported here. And we are passing some inputs to this circle property. So over here for center, we can pass circle dot center, since we are getting the center at each point. And this should, okay, so this didn't give an error. Generally in React, we also have to pass a key to our elements, and that key is a unique identifier for each individual property. So the best way to for an array, the unique property is its index. Since this circle is present at the 0th index, we obviously know that no other element can be present at 0th index. So we pass key as index over here. So ESLint didn't scream at us for this, but generally this is good practice to pass a key value to React. So right now we see that both of our circles are getting rendered on the screen, since we have returned a loop, since we are looping over the circles array and mapping it to our screen. So is this part clear to everyone? How we have used map to map the circles on our map? If anyone has any doubt in how map worked, etc. So again, I pulled this out of thin air because I already know how map works, but if anyone has any doubts at all, so what you can do is look up array properties on MDN. So MDN is the best source for finding JavaScript related documentation. So this is array, and I can search for map here. Okay, so I guess, yes. So array.prototype.map. So this is where you can look up the documentation for map, which I used here. Index is a default feature of map. Yes. So I'm not sure why this documentation is not much more helpful. MDN should have provided it in a list. Okay, so generally there are 3 functions which we can use, which return the same thing. They return the individual element in the first parameter and the index in the second parameter. So map is one of those functions. And then another one of those functions is reduce. So reduce also takes current value. Okay, so some of this documentation may be unreadable if you are a real beginner to JavaScript, but once you get started with reading documentation, then this becomes much easier to learn. So right now we can see that it takes current value and index. So this is for map. And then for reduce, this also does the same thing. So the first parameter it takes is the accumulator. So reduce is something else entirely, but I'm just explaining to you how these functions work. And then it takes the current value and then the index. And same for filter, it takes the element and the index. So this is a default So this is a default feature of these functions. You can look it up in array.prototype. Okay. So I'll just close these tabs since we are through them mostly. So the next thing that we can look at is they've pointed us to this leaflet reference. We have opened this here, and we can also pass a bunch of other values to our circle. So the next thing which I will pass is the color of the circle. So right now over here, I can pass color. Okay. So this is supposed to be passed like this, color green. So we can see that the green color was applied to our circles. If I change this to red, the red color will be applied to our circles. So let's make this a property of our circles object itself so that we can change it later on whenever we want, and to make this more dynamic. So right now, along with the center key, we are also passing the color key in our circle object. So right now I can use circle dot color. So see, JavaScript automatically, I mean Visual Studio Code automatically gives us these helpful autocomplete options. So since we have defined two properties, that is center and color, on our circles array, we are getting these two objects as a autocomplete option over here. So I do circle.color, and we see that automatically our circle got colored here. So the next part would be adding state to this. So what we are doing, so we already have state. The code which we have written here, that is state. So we aren't really adding state to this. We are adding the state hook. So this is a state hook is a really helpful React hook to make our application more dynamic. So I will import useState from React. And for now, the only thing you need to know is that useState returns the element itself and a function to update that element. So that element can be anything. It can be any data type, a JSON array, a JSON object, a string, anything can be passed as a initial value to useState. So useState, as we see here, it returns a stateful value and a function to update it. And otherwise, I guess they haven't really gone into detail here, but you can open the React documentation link that they have given here, and you can see it returns state and set state, and it takes initial state as an input. So we have defined our initial state here. So I'll just name this to initial circles. I can move this out of the rendering loop. So let me just cut this from here, paste it here, and pass initial circles to our state hook. So the only thing you need to understand right now is that what useState is doing is it's returning a value, and that value will be the default, will be the initial value at the start, and we can change that value by calling the set circles or the set state function and passing another value to it. So right now this is fine that we have initial circles here, but yeah. So next, since we have to move, we are moving towards building this application where on clicking no answers, different set of circles are being displayed on, and on clicking yes answers, a different set of circles are being displayed. We'll be adding these buttons here, yes answers and no answers. But till then, does anyone have any doubt till this point? If anyone is lost somewhere, maybe I can explain that part. Everything is clear till now? I didn't get the use state. Okay. Okay, Naveed. So use state is basically a basic React hook. So I'll explain it more as I go through it. But for now, you can So this function can be replaced with const circles equal to initial circles right now, and it would still work the same. So right now in this code, we are passing initial circles to circles. That's it. We haven't yet gone into updating the state using set state till now. So I think hopefully that clears it up for now. Right now, this function is just applying initial circles to circles. So I'll uncomment this. I'll remove this part from here. And now let's go on to adding some buttons. So I'll add a BR here. So interesting thing about React is an interesting thing about JSX, I guess. So the code that we have written here is actually JSX. It's not JS. JSX is like adding HTML to your JavaScript code. So this is our JavaScript code and we are returning HTML here. And that HTML has to follow the XML syntax. So what XML syntax basically means, we can't have any unclosed tags. So if I don't terminate my BR tag here, I'll get an error, unterminated JSX contents. So the same works with images and other links, etc. So if I add something like a image tag here without closing it, if I add some source, for example, then I will get the same error that an image has been added without terminating its tag. So we need to close the tag itself. So right now this will give me some errors because it doesn't have alt, etc. I'll remove this for now. I'll add two buttons. Button 1, which is named yes answers, and button 2, which let's say we call it no answers. So we have two buttons on screen right now. So according to the button that we are clicking, we need to change the value of circles by using set circles over here. So if we go to this application, I click on no answers, yes answers, it is changing. So we need to have the same thing happening over here. So what I'll do is, everyone must know the onClick property on JavaScript, or might have used it somewhere, maybe in forms or something. So onClick. So the thing in JSX, we can't use onClick directly. We need to use it in camel case. So we use this like this. And since this is a property on our JavaScript function, I mean on our JSX component, so on the button component or on any component in JSX, they generally have the onClick property. So onClick, what we are going to pass is set. So firstly, I'll need to define a set of coordinates for the no answers. So for now, I will just rename this to, I will do rename symbols. This renames all of the instances of this property which appear in our code. So I'll rename this to yes answers. So we see that even over here, initial circles was renamed to yes answers. Okay. So, and over here, I will create another array called no answers. And I'll paste this over here. So I'll color this red, I'll color this red. So to visualize this, I will pass this here. So right now we are doing const circles is equal to no answers. And let's say that we manipulate one of them. Okay, why aren't they moving? So I think it isn't live reloading right now. Let me just check it over here. Okay, so yeah, that was the issue. It wasn't live reloading. So we see over here that the other circle has moved to the other point. So what we'll do for now is we'll pass yes answers as the default value here. And now I'll explain to you how onClick works. So for onClick, we pass a function in as a parameter. So it also takes a callback function as a parameter. And this, in this callback function, what I'll do is I'll just set circles. Over here, I will set circles to yes answers, and I'll just copy this property from my first button. I'll paste it on the second button. And for the second button, I will do set circles and no answers. So what you will see happening here is when we click on no answers, we get the second set of rendered circles over here. And when we click on yes answers, we get the first set of circles. So that's how we are displaying a set of responses on our page by using React and by using set state and use state. So is everything clear up to this point? Does anyone, so Naveed, since you had asked a question before, is this part clear to you? How use state is running right now? Okay, cool. It's really great that you understand this. People, so this is not really difficult to understand, but people feel that going through the documentation is a difficult thing. And so people generally avoid learning new things. So that's not what you should do. You should always go through the documentation, look up the basic things, see what examples that they've built, and try to implement them yourselves to learn new things. So this was the state hook. So this is, you are on your way to becoming a React professional. This is one of the first things that you need to know to code React in a larger scale. So I already covered this, reacting to button clicks. So we are reacting to the button click by using set circle over here. And right now would be a good moment to talk about functional programming. So if I don't click any button, what's the initial state? Good question. So the initial state for the use state hook is whatever object we pass as a initial state here. Yes. So over here, I'm passing yes answers. So at the same time, you all can also go through the code. I'm not sure if it will update live for you while I type it out. So it might be helpful for you to keep both screens side by side, I guess. And now, yes, so I was talking about functional programming. So functional programming is a different paradigm. So declarative programming is kind of a paradigm which is a subpart of functional programming. So in functional programming, your application consists of some states. So basically, or let's say a single global state. So let's consider that this is a single state, one single state right now. And whenever we are clicking on something, whenever we are changing the values, we are manipulating the state. So what we are doing is state one, we pass this to a function state one, and what we are getting at the end is state two. So you can consider these two states of our application. The state one is when we clicked on yes answers and we are getting the yes answers that are displayed here. The second state can be when we click on no answers and we are getting the no answers here. So this is state in functional programming. And so the things which are causing the state to change are known as effects. So I'm giving you the basics of functional programming, so the React documentation makes much more sense to you. And so effects are basically things which cause the state to change. So here the effect that we are applying is clicking on no answers or yes answers. But then there are other things known as side effects. So these are basically unforeseen effects, if I may say. So unforeseen effects may be something like API calls when you are calling an API and you can't really see I mean, you can't really foresee whether the API would succeed, what output that API would give to you, etc. And another thing can be DB calls. So basically, or user input. So basically, these three things can be considered as side effects because they are unforeseen and we need a way to handle them in our application. So basically, functional programming does not allow effects without, I mean, unforeseen effects without having a way to handle them. So in React, what we have for this is the use effect hook. So use effect hook allows us to define these effects and allows us to do function calls, DB calls, etc. out of our normal render loop. So Varsha, do I have time to get into some other stuff? Like, do I have time to explain the effect hook?
I think we can work till 8:30 or more 10 minutes for the Q&A then.
Okay, so I'm going to use the effect hook, but there is also a bonus thing that we are going to learn today, which is how to get the user's location. So again, I will be honest with you, I have no idea how we get the user's location through the browser. So what we are going to do is we are going to look up the documentation. So what we do is get user location, or since we are using latitude and longitude here, get user latitude and longitude, MDN. So as I said, MDN is the best way to learn anything about JavaScript. So we see that we have something called the geolocation API in our browser. It has a function called get current position, which returns the device's current location. So if I scroll down, I don't see anything helpful here. So I'll just click on this function right now. And again, they're giving me a bunch of syntax, etc. Not really usable right now. So I'll look at this example. I see navigator.get geolocation.get current position. So I was lying a bit. I have used this before, so I know what this does. But instead of looking at the documentation, I'll explain to you what this function call is doing right now. So in this function call, we see that we are passing three parameters: success, error, and options. So when we call this function, what the browser does is actually ask the users. So it asks for the user's permission. So you might have seen that there's a pop-up which appears here, which either asks you whether you want to display notifications, whether you want to give your location to the current website or application, something like that. So what we'll be doing is we'll be copying this. So I might be going a bit too fast at this part because we are doing multiple things. We are trying to achieve multiple things right now. So please stop me. Please ask your doubt in the chat at any point. Okay. So we import use effect from React, and what we are doing is we'll call use effect here. So what I'll firstly define my use effect. So use effect is a function which takes two parameters. The first parameter is the callback function, which is passed whenever we want our effect to be called. And the second parameter is a dependency array. So dependency array is basically when it is used to handle state updates, external function calls, etc. So whenever some state of our UI changes, which function do we want to call? Which surprises do we want to occur? Does it take user's current longitude, latitude? No, it does not, but we can pass the user's current longitude and latitude in the dependency array. And okay, so the best example, I guess, would be to console.log this, but then I would have to go into details about how we get the user's current latitude and longitude from the map. So I won't go into that much detail right now. I will call this function here, and let me see this again. For the success, so we don't really need, okay, I guess let me copy the error and the success function right now, and we pass it as a parameter here, success error. So in case of an error, we are console.logging this. In case of success, we are also console.logging this. So I'll just save this right now. This, okay. So as you see, it's asking me for my location right now. So I won't take the risk of blocking this and then later on this not working for me. So I'll just click or allow for now. So when I click allow, if I go into the console, okay, yes, sir. Yeah, cool. So it's giving me my current latitude and longitude. And this is the accuracy which the browser is printing by itself. So for now, what I need is the latitude and longitude value. So what I'll do is I'll change this to initial position and also convert this into a state hook. So this will be position, comma set position equals to use state and initial position. So as we all know, this should work the same since I have not set any value right now. This map should just, okay, let's wait for it to render. Set map and map center and zoom first. Okay. So I seem to have broken something. Okay, so I've done this error. I defined a variable after I was calling it. So right now this should work cool. So if I refresh this again, it's working the same. I've already given the location access to my browser, so it won't ask me again. And it must be printing it to the console right now. So let's say that instead of printing it to the console, what I want to do is set position here. And in the position, we'll take this array here. And instead of latitude, we pass the user's latitude. Instead of longitude, we pass the user's longitude. So the thing to take care of is that this only works if the user has given us access to their latitude and longitude. So I'll save this right now. We are still not getting the output here, but I'm sure that we'll now get our output here. Okay, so this is not my location, but that's because I have set my GPS accuracy to low. But otherwise, this is pretty near to my area. So the map got this from my user location. So you guys can test it in your own browser. You'll see that you'll be redirected or your current location will be given to a different place. So that's it for effects and getting the user's position. So the user's position is a side effect, and side effects, as I had explained before, were unforeseen effects. So those are effects that the developer cannot anticipate. And so since the user position was pretty random, any user can be situated anywhere. So we are passing it in the effect hook. And according to the effect hook, we are changing our state by passing the new values to set position. So I think that's it for this part. We can go into much more advanced topics, but I think that might be enough new knowledge for a day. So Any questions? Do any of you have any questions at this point of any of the start points or what I just implemented on screen? So again, I'll post the code in the chat. You can go through it. You can ask me any doubt about any part. So please explain, how did you do that? Access user's location. Okay, how did I access the user's location? So what I did was I used the browser's API. So the browser actually has a list of default APIs. So please post in the chat when you get a point so I can move to the next one. So firstly, I'll explain what web APIs are. So have you used this before, Rishabh? Have you used any web APIs? Okay, you haven't. So the browser actually has a list of helpful APIs. You can actually get the batteries, although battery status, although that's been deprecated. And otherwise you can get ambient light events. Can we create random values for latitude and longitude using random function? Yes, you can. And I recommend you to experiment it. And you can use the code sandbox link that I had given in the chat. You can change the values, you can experiment. If something breaks, try to fix it, you'll have a lot of fun. So explaining web APIs, basically the browser has a lot of APIs like push API to give us notification, IndexedDB to store stuff in the browser, or HTML drag and drop API to do drag and drop stuff. And of those, we use the geolocation API. So inside the geolocation API, I specifically use the get current position function because that's what we want to get from the user. And then I simply use their example to understand how this works. So unfortunately, MDN does not give usable examples for this. I'm not sure why, but you can run them in a code sandbox easily. So again, how to start a new code sandbox? You just go to codesandbox.io and you click on either create sandbox or create react sandbox. Then you can use your examples there directly. Okay. So Rishabh, these are not really APIs in the sense that they are APIs that we are calling like get request or post request, but these are APIs in the sense that uh, they are available as functions to the developer, and through those functions, the functions themselves use the API to access some functionality of the device or the browser itself. So that would be a better way of explaining what these APIs are. So does anyone else have any other questions? How you used it? Okay, so uh, since I just said, I pasted the link. Let me just check in the chat whether okay. So I did not paste the link for this, so I'll just paste it here again. So Rishabh, the best way to learn something is to implement it by yourself. So I really recommend that you go through this function, but I'll explain this function in a very high level way. So what this function is doing is that when we are calling get current position, it is displaying that how when we are calling get current position, it is displaying the pop-up to the user, and if the user clicks on allow, then it calls the success function. If we click on block, then it calls the error function. And the options are basically a bunch of parameters which are passed to get current position to modify our search result. So it's kind of a user search result if you think about it. So these are the options. So I have another question from Madhavi. So how to call a map function within another map function when I want to call a React API. So Madhavi, your question isn't really clear to me, but I'll still try to explain or try to implement it. So you can actually call another one map function inside another map function. So that can be helpful when like you have an array 1 and inside that array you have another arrays. So array 2 is something like this. Array 2, yeah, array 3 is something like this. And this has a bunch of elements in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in this case, if I want to get these individual elements, so to implement this, I'll move to the console. So this actually is my favorite playground, the console, because you can you can paste any code here and you can practice by iterating over it. So what I will do is array1.map, and I will get each individual element here. What I can do here is do element.map. So what I'm doing is using a map inside a map, and using this, I can go like, this is like inception. You can go even deeper. So I'm going into inner element over here, and using this inner element, I will console.log this. So let me just copy this here, paste this here. Okay, element.map is not a function. Yes, that's right. You are right, console. So for now, I'll just cut this here, paste this somewhere else. I will remove this, and array1 has already been defined. Okay, so then I rename this to array2, and then I take back my code, I paste it here, I map over array2, and element.map is still not a function. So what I need to do is element.array.map, and now we see our array is printed here. So this is how we can map over a map, if it makes sense. This is not a real world example, but in the real world, you may find some examples where you have some arrays which are present inside an object, which are present inside an array. So in that case, something like this is helpful for you. And when I want to call a React API, so let's say that, so these are basically hooks APIs. So let's say instead of React APIs, you mean to say hooks API. So there are, the most basic API you can call is useState. So inside of that, set state. So you want to update a timer or a counter, or you want to display to the user. So instead of console.log here, you would be pasting set state inner element over here. Okay. So I hope that solves your doubt. Does anyone else have any question, or do you guys who have already asked me questions, do you have any further doubts which I can clear up right now?